Let's get started. I'm Ted Miguel. This is Econ 172, and thanks for coming. I think there was a little bit of a mix-up on the room. Just a few days ago, they switched us from Hearst Mining here, so I suspect there may still be people trickling in. How many of you actually went to Hearst Mining by mistake? Any of you? No? Okay, you guys all get an A for following directions, which is great. Let's start. I think this is going to be a kind of a usual first lecture. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the course. We're going to go through the syllabus, grading, and all that, and you guys will have a chance to ask some questions about the course as well. And then hopefully sometime in the latter half of the lecture, we'll actually start talking about some of the material. So this term, we're going to focus on African economic development. Econ 172 is a topics course, so different professors have taught it differently. But since my research focuses on Africa, and I think there's a lot of really exciting intellectual issues to study, we're going to focus on Africa this term. Again, this is my name. You've got my email there. I know you can figure that out. I have office hours on Mondays and Thursdays in the morning, so please drop an email to Lisa to set up an appointment during those times. Occasionally, I can also meet outside of those times, although I prefer to meet during the office hours. I'm going to hold off for a second introducing the GSIs, just because one of the GSIs went to the Hearst Mining building in case there was anybody who ended up there. But Pierre and Jonas are the GSIs, and they're fantastic. And I'll introduce them to you in a more formally in a minute. They'll introduce themselves. If you came in late, there are syllabuses up here as well. So let me just give you guys these over here. Great, thanks. Thank you. Thanks. Great. Thank you. Okay, good. Okay, a number of you have already come up and asked about enrollment issues. If you have any questions about enrollment, please contact Ginny. I think the class is full. There is a waiting list. There's always turnover, as you guys know, in the first week or two, a little bit. So hopefully, everybody can get accommodated, and I'll do everything I can to have you all get in the course. But keep me posted if you have any questions. But maybe first contact Ginny to see if she can get you into the course. Okay, any questions at this point on just some of these mechanics? Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the course now, just the big picture. We are going to cover the main topics in development economics, the study of international economic growth, the study of international poverty, but we're going to view those topics through the lens of African development. So when we talk about education, we're going to talk about projects and papers that focus on these issues in Africa. When we talk about political economy issues and institutional issues, the same. We're going to focus on African cases. And part of the reason I choose to structure the course this way is it's going to make the course a little more concrete than a course that's just driven by models and theories without any real places and people. So we're still going to talk about the models and the theories. We're still going to go through the big concepts, but we're going to learn a lot about a few countries in Africa. So by the end of the term, not only are you going to know the concepts, but you're also going to know something about real places. So I think it makes the course a more concrete experience. At least that's the hope. Beyond the conceptual focus on development economics topics, we're going to spend a lot of time discussing and learning how to use applied econometric methods, applied statistical methods, and we're going to apply them to study development in Africa. So I think a lot of you, and actually the prereq of the course, a lot of you have taken some statistics or econometrics. Maybe raise your hand if you have taken or you're currently taking some statistics or econometrics. So that's most of you. If you've never taken any statistics, if you don't know what a standard error is, if you don't know what a regression is, then we should talk, because you're going to have a lot of catching up to do if you're not even familiar with regression and sort of core fundamental statistics and econometrics. But if you've taken some statistics and econometrics, then you'll be able to handle what we're doing in this course. We're going to try to build up from the foundation. In the last decade, in the last 15 years, there's really been an explosion of research in economics and in the other social sciences on how to use statistics and econometrics in a very applied and practical way to understand the impact of certain programs, to understand the impact of certain projects. It's really been one of the most important areas of economics over the last couple decades. What we're going to do in this course is show you guys how to use these tools. And we're going to break them down and really focus on the 3 or 4 main methods that are used to understand the impact of programs. Now, we're going to study them in the context of Africa, but the exact same econometrics, the exact same statistics can be used to study the impact of programs in the US or anywhere else. So hopefully this will give you guys a sort of toolkit that you can use in other settings. So that's going to be a big part of the course, the applied statistics and econometrics. Again, if you've taken no intermediate economics and you've taken no statistics or econometrics, you're going to have a pretty steep hill to climb just to keep up with the class. But if you've taken some economics and you've taken some statistics and econometrics, you should be fine. But if you have questions about your background, let me know, talk to the GSIs, and we'll figure out if it's a good fit. I should just say that I very much welcome students that are outside of econ. Most of the econ students have fulfilled these requirements. I welcome students from outside econ who have taken some economics and statistics or econometrics because I think the material is broadly relevant even beyond the econ major. So again, if you have questions about your background, don't hesitate to ask me, email me, or come to office hours to discuss. So what about grading? The course will be graded on a curve. The median is set to be a B+. I think that's pretty typical for most courses. There's a little bit of variation from year to year. I've seen enough classes that some classes are a little stronger than others. Just looking at you guys, I can tell you guys are going to be a good class. So maybe there'll be more good grades. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. There are a couple different components to the grades. The first are problem sets, and that's actually going to be your first assignment. There's going to be one problem set in February, one in March, one in April. The goal of the problem sets are really to get you guys comfortable working with data and starting to work with these applied econometric techniques that I mentioned before. To do that, you need to use statistical software. And the software package that's most widely used in economics and a lot of other fields these days is Stata. It's pretty user-friendly. It's pretty widely used. If you don't have it already, you can purchase a limited time student sort of download or subscription for, I think it's $32, somewhere between $30 or $40. Or there are computer labs on campus that also have Stata. They're written on the syllabus. So if you don't want to purchase Stata, you can access them in Berkeley Computer Labs. But I would encourage you to take advantage of the student discount and get a copy of Stata. It'll just be easier to work at home. You can bring your laptop to section when the GSIs are going through the material. So I would definitely encourage you to do that. I have more information on where you can get Stata if you don't have it already on the syllabus. And the syllabus is online as well. So that's the first set of assignments. Each problem set is going to be 10% of the grade. In addition to those statistics and econometric assignments, there will be some short essay components to problem sets on topics we've been discussing in the course based on the readings. So that's going to be another component of the problem sets. And there may also be some short theory components, again, just based on the models that we're doing in lecture. But a lot of the material is going to be the applied econometrics, short essay, maybe a little bit of theory. So that's the first component of the grade. Then there are going to be 2 exams, the midterm and the final. The midterm will be in class on, I think it's Tuesday, March 18th. So that'll just be an hour and a half exam, hour and 20-minute exam. The final exam is during the regular exam period, and you guys got lucky because it's Friday night from 7 to 10 p.m. on the last day of the exam period. So we all got lucky. We all got lucky. It's gonna be wonderful. I may have to skip town. So those are the two exams. The exams are going to be structured a lot like the problem sets, except you're not going to be using Stata in the middle of the exam. There are going to be some short essays based on topics in the course. There are going to be some theory questions, maybe based on models we did in the course, and then there's going to be a lot of applications of the applied statistical tools that we've been doing in the course. So it's really going to be a mix, and I think the problem sets will give you a sense of the kind of material that will show up on the exams. I think there'll be 2 problem sets before the midterm, so you'll have a good sense of the material. Then the last component of the grade is class participation and attendance. That's 10%. Let me just describe that in a little more detail. 5% of that 10%, so half that 10%, is going to be based on the quality of the comments, remarks, discussion that you provide both in lecture here and also in section. So I'll be in touch with the GSIs. They'll be keeping track of who's attending section, who's participating in section, and I'll be doing the same in lecture so that we have a sense of who's really actively participating. So that's 5%. The other 5% is going to be based on your attendance and participation in lecture, and I'm going to measure that using clickers. So how many of you have used clickers in a class before? Probably most folks. How many people have a clicker already? So most folks. If you don't, you should buy one. And actually, you can buy either the first or the second generation clicker because I'm not going to do anything too sophisticated. The idea behind the clicker is a couple times per lecture, I'm going to pose a question to the class. I'm going to ask you your opinion on something. It's really going to be more exploratory. I'm not going to be quizzing you on, 2 minutes ago I said, Africa grew 10%, was it 10%, 11%, or 9%? That's not going to be the kind of clicker question I'll ask. It'll be more your view on something, your perspective on an issue, where very often there isn't a right answer, but I want to get a sense of what the class is thinking or your guys' perspective. So I'm going to keep track of who's here, but also it's going to allow us to understand what the class is thinking and what people are, what their view is on different issues. I'm often going to use clicker questions at the start of new parts of the course for the same reason, really to get a sense of where you guys are at and get your opinions. So please get a clicker. There's a detailed paragraph on the syllabus about how to get and use the clicker. I think you need to register the clicker for this class, and I'll be able to sort of merge that list of registered students with the roster. So that's the other component of the grade. I'm going to start using the clickers next week just to give you guys another few days to kind of get set up and to get myself set up. So starting next Tuesday, I'll start having clicker questions in class. Okay. Speaking about technology, the class is also going to be screencast, meaning this audio on the mic is being recorded, so are the slides. So you'll be able to see all the lectures, at least the slides, and hear the audio online. And that can help you review for exams or review for problem sets. And they're going to be posted with a 1-week delay. And I've set it up that way just so people come to lecture. And I figure if they're just screencast in real time, there may be different incentives. So I thought this would be better. So any questions about any of this, about clickers, about screencasting? How many of you do you think would watch the slides and listen to the audio if they are screencast? Some of you. Okay, great. Okay, more kind of background here, just filling in the details a little bit. We are not on vSpace, we're on vCourses. So I guess campus is switching over to vCourses from vSpace. How many of you have had courses on vCourses already? So again, some of you have, some of you haven't. vCourses seems just like vSpace to me, having just sort of migrated stuff over. Maybe there's a little more functionality, but it's pretty user-friendly. Most of the course readings have already been uploaded. In addition to the PDFs that are online, there is a reader that's going to be assembled and will be available at the Copy Central on Bancroft soon. I think in the next week. Friday. Okay, so hopefully even sooner. And so for those of you who want everything in one place, that'll be useful. In addition to the reading packet, there are a few required books. There are 3 required books. They're all paperbacks, and I think they're all fairly cheap. There's a book of mine with Ray Fissman called Economic Gangsters, which focuses on corruption and violence in economic development, and we'll be drawing on that book for several chapters of that book for several lectures. So that's one book. Another one is a book of mine called Africa's Turn, which is sort of an extended essay on trends in African development. And the third book is by Glenister and Taga Varasha, which is called Running Randomized Evaluations, a Practical Guide. And again, on the syllabus, you'll see a couple chapters from that book that are required readings. Again, that's a paperback. This is a really nice book. It's brand new. It literally just came out like a couple months ago. And in addition to the assigned chapters, you'll see that there's summaries of several of the other papers that are on the syllabus that use randomized evaluation methods, which is one of these applied econometric methods, applied statistical methods that we'll be talking about in the course. And there's a lot of useful stuff in there that I think Jonas and Pierre will be talking about in section as well. In addition to those 3 required books, there are 2 optional books that I would encourage you to get if you really want to dive into the material. The first is a book by my colleague Gerard Roland called Development Economics. This is a book that goes way beyond Africa and way beyond even the topics we're going to cover in the course. It covers dozens of topics, the whole globe. If you're really interested in international development, this is a very good investment because it's brand new. It has very comprehensive coverage of a lot of topics and regions, and it's a really nice book. So I'll encourage you to get that. And there are some extracts, some chapters and appendices from this book that are on the syllabus already. The second book is by Angrist and Pischke called Mostly Harmless Econometrics. And this is a book of really applied econometric methods that is very widely used and liked by economists. So if you're really interested in some of the techniques, the applied econometrics, the statistics, et cetera, then you should consider getting this book. This book is more technical. I'm not going to get into the technical details, the technical econometric details from this book in lecture. But if you are into this stuff, this would be a good buy and kind of a good companion with the Glenister and Taga Varasha book. Okay, let me pause. Jonas is back from trying to find people at 390 Hearst Mining. Was anybody up there? Got it. Okay, so good. So it's good you went up there. That's great. Because they switched the room. So let me let Pierre and Jonas introduce themselves and maybe say something about their sections and office hours. You can't fire anybody at Berkeley. Yeah, no, it's great to work with you. Pierre has done fieldwork in Kenya and is doing a bunch of projects in Central America now as well. So it's great to work together on this.
Hey guys, my name is Thomas. I'm from CSA, I'm 5'6", and also my office hours are this is my first time teaching course, so as excited as you guys are. I'm going to do some fieldwork with
Let me write both of the office hours on here because I'll post these slides. Hold on. So Pierre, your office hours are when? Oops. Oh, why isn't it working? Hold on. There we go. Okay, so 9 to 11 on Tuesdays. In Evans, what room? 6:36. Okay, and Jonas, what time is it? Okay. 5:43. Okay. 42. Okay. So hopefully those are good times. Okay. Where was I? Syllabus outline. Let me pause. Any questions so far for the GSIs, for me? Yeah. Just switch sections. It's fine with me. The one thing I'd just be concerned about is make sure this week you check in with the GSIs, attend section, or email them if there is a time conflict so you don't get dropped, because I think one way people get dropped is if they don't attend. But I have no objection as long as there's room in sections. Any other questions? Okay, so let me just go through the syllabus a little bit more, and then we'll get into some more of the details. We're going to start today and Thursday discussing broad patterns of global development. We're going to compare African economic development patterns and human development patterns to the other major developing regions, just to get a sense of where the different regions are. And in particular, we're going to see that sub-Saharan Africa is poorer than the other major developing regions in most dimensions. So that's really the starting point for the course, is trying to understand why sub-Saharan Africa is where it is and how we can get out of that position. Next week, we're going to discuss, okay, so that's this week here. Next week, we're going to discuss theories of economic growth, really from macroeconomics, to get a big picture about the sorts of factors that economists think are driving better economic performance and worse economic performance. So the growth model is going to provide a framework that's going to allow us to think a little bit more systematically about why certain regions are rich or poor. It's going to allow us to classify certain problems or factors or challenges in different categories, because economists think there's really one of two or three main reasons why countries grow or factors that promote growth. We're going to be able to think in those terms. That's going to be next week. For the remainder of the first half of the course, we're going to have a very heavy focus on human capital, what economists call human capital, health and education, really investing in people's capabilities. And it's going to turn out that this is a very important area in sub-Saharan Africa relative to other regions, because health indicators are a lot worse. There's a lot more tropical disease. There's a lot more HIV/AIDS. There are a lot fewer schools. So all these different dimensions of investment in human capital look worse in sub-Saharan Africa than other parts of the world. We're going to try to understand why and try to understand which programs have been effective at improving that situation. So there's going to be a very strong focus on human capital. That's really the first half of the course through the midterm. The second half of the course is going to have a very strong focus on political economy, history, and institutions. So we're going to switch gears a little bit and start looking back in time, start looking at the deeper causes of why sub-Saharan Africa is poor. So beyond just saying that, well, Africa's poor because people aren't educated enough and dealing with the education sector, we're going to take a step back and try to understand where the economic policies come from that led to poor education. And we're going to step back again and try to understand where the institutions, the governmental institutions came from that crafted those policies. Then we're going to step back again and ask about the historical trajectory that put in place those institutions. So we're going to kind of go backwards in the second half of the course, but there's going to be a logic to it. So by the end of the course, we're actually going to go back into very important historical episodes in sub-Saharan Africa from the 15th century into the 20th century, the whole episode of the global slave trade and colonialism, European colonialism in Africa, and try to understand the legacy of those major historical events for subsequent African development. But it makes sense to put those at the end, because then we're going to know where Africa is today and the problems it faces. So those historical episodes are going to make a lot more sense. Finally, in the last week or so, we're going to talk about future challenges, current successes, and look forward again. So this course has a certain structure where really my goal is to expose you to a lot of the cutting-edge topics in development economics. A lot of these issues that are up here are the most active areas of research in development economics today and over the last decade, but they're very important for African development. So we're really going to study these issues and tackle them with this goal in mind, the goal of understanding African economic development. That's going to be our organizing principle for the course. And then, as I mentioned, there'll be a final exam during exam week. The final exam will cover the whole course, somewhat weighted towards the second half of the course. Okay, let me pause and see if there's any questions so far. If you are interested in international development and you were designing a course, what are some topics you would want to see on this list of 7 or 8 topics that aren't up here? What are some of the holes in this syllabus? And there are holes. Like, I'm not covering all of global development in this course. What would you want to put on the syllabus? You'd want to see that on the syllabus? You'd want to see more of that, you mean? More than a couple lectures? Okay. So there's some coverage of that. You think that's central enough that there could be more? Yep. Yep. There's going to be some of that here, but that's right. That could be a course in its own. It would just be the public policy application of some of these issues. Although I think what you will see is in a lot of these topics, we'll eventually get to the policy implications. But you're right. It could be a separate line item here. Yeah. So the role of foreign aid. I mean, this gets into the policy side too. So a specific focus on foreign aid, NGOs, the World Bank. Yep. Microfinance. I'm going to write these down. These are good. So we just heard about NGOs and aid. There was a discussion of maybe emphasizing public goods more. Microfinance. Okay. Yep. Trade. So maybe this goes up here with sort of Africa's interactions with the world and the policy side. Yep. So really disaggregating Africa, which we'll do some of, but that's right. That in itself, trying to understand differential performance within Africa.